Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Time for another episode of the Mulliner and Musgrove Show with me, Andrew Musgrove, and him, Sam Mulliner. Hope you guys are all doing well. Sam, welcome back to the podcast. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Yeah, good. Very interesting last couple of days, isn't it? Because the whole Scalvini links, which of course we highlighted a couple of weeks ago. So that's good. But yeah, no, it's yeah, footballing wise, the Club World Cup doesn't do a vast amount for me. But I have been watching um, some of the games. I'm not one of those that stay up till 2 a.m. just to watch a dead rubber match. But yeah, there's been some decent performances in it. But hopefully Newcastle can get going with some transfers soon.
Fingers crossed. And if anybody had a sweepstake on how long it would take Sam to mention that he did speak about Scalvini a few weeks ago when we did an episode about the more gay alternatives, if you had 4 seconds, then congratulations. I mean, I knew you'd mention it or you'd tee me up to mention it, which I would have done. I didn't think
Well,
it'd be that quick in the episode, though.
just trying to add some credibility to your award-winning podcast.
Oh, how kind of you. How
I
kind.
forgot. I've missed this. We haven't talked about it. What award did you win? Because I failed to ever get invited to these these awards dues. You've got a trophy in your hand that looks like you've won most improved player at under 10s.
You see this, right? You said this 2 years ago when we won this. This is the 2023 trophy. So we won the best sport podcast at the Publisher Podcast Awards in 2023. We then missed out to our colleagues down at Birmingham who covered Aston Villa last year, and then we retained it a few weeks ago. So we'll get another one of these in the post at some point.
Regained it, not retained it.
Oh yeah, because we retained it from 2023. Regained it. Okay, whatever. This one actually got damaged on the night of the awards due back in 2023 because we were running for the last tube to where our hotel was. I thought tubes ran 24 hours of the day, and it was in my pocket, and it slipped out of my pocket and it smashed onto the ground. And I couldn't pick up the piece that left the bottom of it here because the tube doors were closing. So I just had to pick it up, and yeah, little memento there. So this one that'll
Imagine
come
if
this
that
week.
happened with Jason Tyndall in the Carabao Cup.
Imagine. Well, you know the story about Bob Moncur and the power lines, right?
Yeah. So
Well,
look, there
listeners,
must be a running theme. Do tell for those who aren't aware.
yeah, for listeners who don't, and I don't know how you wouldn't have heard the story because Gibbo tells it once every week. Bob Moncur, when he was lifting the trophy through the sun shield of the bus coming back from the airport, he hit some power lines above the bus and was very, very fortunate that the front of the Chronicle didn't have a different headline on that evening because it was quite a bang on the power lines by what people say. Very fortunate. So thankfully it didn't happen this time around with Dan Burn or any other of the Newcastle stars, which is all good. We're going to just quickly talk about our sponsors, Sam, before we continue.
Good.
Because if you are going on holiday, then you need to sign up to Saily, new eSIM service app brought to you by the creators of NORD VPN. You can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations. With a Saily eSIM, you'll always have connection when needed. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed an internet connection with no Wi-Fi spot in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local SIM card can make. An eSIM provides an internet connection wherever you travel and saves you money on your roaming fees. Download the app once and away you go. It's affordable. Plenty of choice out there. 24/7 support available as well, which is always good. As you can tell, I am struggling through my cold. Not very successfully. I've got tunes now. Is that what they're called? Tunes? Do you remember the throat sweets?
Other throat sweets are available. I prefer
Yeah.
Jakeman's.
You can have a bit of Jakeman's. They're
Just
good.
make sure that it doesn't turn into tonsillitis like it did with me.
Yes, but you're all better now, aren't you?
I'm getting there. I finished my antibiotics this morning. Thank you for asking.
Good.
But yeah,
We thought
I am all back at work and yeah, all good.
we thought it was a holiday blues, but if you go on holiday with a Saily eSIM, you won't have any holiday blues because it's the perfect app to take away and get connected and support the podcast at the same time. So hit the link in the podcast description box for a discount offer on your Saily eSIM provided by the creators of NORD VPN. Right, this episode is all about goalkeepers, Sam, your favorite topic because you were once a goalkeeper, right?
I mean that's giving a lot more gravitas than what it deserves. Yeah, I mean, I say it's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's probably not, to be honest, because we've already got too many, but let's add more of them. Is what Newcastle United are going for at the moment. Obviously, there's the situation last summer with Lacademos, which, for PSR reasons, we had our pants pulled down by Nottingham Forest, who obviously got Elliot Anderson, one of the jewels in our young starlet crown, and we got a fourth choice goalkeeper in return, and he is fourth choice. He's behind John Ruddy in the pecking order, which is alarming at best. And he's going to be around for the next 4 or 5 years, whatever, because we won't get the fee that we had to fork out to satisfy Forest PSR stuff. So, yeah, it's awful. Obviously, there's a situation with Dubravka, who was popular at the time because he kind of had a bit of a swan song. I think you remember we discussed this, and I wouldn't have given him the new contract, which again I think has kind of been proven right, really, because do we need Dubravka? Should he have gone to Saudi and got his last kind of big money move wage wise? I think he probably should have done. So now we're looking at Nick Pope, who's what, 32, 33. Yeah, so the next long-term goalkeeper is now what is required. So it's a bit of a baffling scenario as how we got into this situation.
Now, we know Newcastle are in the market for a goalkeeper, and it looks like it's going to be James Trafford, a man who they've watched for a long, long time. Obviously, we know about the bids or the chase that's gone before, but it looks like finally they're going to get their man. More on him in a moment. But on the topic of this summer and goalkeepers in general, is now the right time to be buying a new goalkeeper for Newcastle United? Or some people might say, well, why don't you just stick with Nick Pope for one more season and spend the cash on another position, which is more a priority?
Or maybe do what Liverpool did and sign a goalkeeper to loan him back out for a year, with Mamadashvili, who of course we were linked with last summer. We almost got Trafford last summer, but again, PSR, when we were in a desperate situation, that's kind of forced our hand. And Trafford would have been a hell of a lot cheaper this time last year than he is now. Which kind of makes me think there are potentially alternatives. I don't mind Trafford as a goalkeeper. I think, if anything, I am a lot more enthused about James Trafford becoming a Newcastle player than I was 12 months ago. He's very, very highly touted within the England national setup as well. I was watching something on TNT a while ago, and Joe Cole was discussing this with, was it Ashley Cole and Jolien Lescott, that they rate him very, very, very highly indeed. So yeah, he's had a fantastic season in the Championship. Obviously gets attention from our fan base because of those penalty saves against Sunderland, which was great. Trafford himself on a podcast alluded to the fact that the deal was close last summer, and I think that would have been 10 million, which would have looked an absolute steal. But now we're looking at triple that, which is concerning in one sense, but he may well be worth it.
Well, that's the big question. Is he worth this 30 to 40 million pounds that Burnley are reportedly asking? I think you've mentioned there the price tag that was on his head last summer. Obviously, that has gone up, and maybe they're thinking, well, actually, if he has a good season in the Premier League with Burnley in the campaign coming up, then what's his price tag going to be next summer? So maybe that's the reason they're going in for him. We'll just lay the groundwork then with Trafford. As I said there, Newcastle United have watched him, scouted him, went in for him last summer. They finally look like they're going to get their man. And this is very Newcastle United, isn't it, Sam? You know, they do have that small group of targets that they like, and they will continuously go back in for them and try and get that deal done. That's kind of where their efforts are, a bit tunnel vision in many ways, but it's worked for the large part of their ownership. They've got very little wrong, and that for me is a big thing. I think you have to trust the scouting setup, those making the decisions, because this is their tactic when it comes to transfers. They know who they want. They will give it maybe 2-3 windows or until the door is firmly closed on that deal. They do their homework. They're meticulous in it. They know who they want, and they do everything to try and get them. And Trafford is at the top of that list when it comes to goalkeepers. I have my doubts when it comes to Trafford, and I've spoken about them previously on this podcast. And
Hit
it's
me with the
namely,
bullet points then. What worries you about Trafford?
Well, it's namely whether he's ready for the Premier League, because he had such a horror show the first time around, and he ended up being dropped for the last 10 games of that campaign when Burnley were relegated, and somehow Vincent Kompany went off to get the job at Bayern Munich. And it's just a question of whether, as good as the season has been in the Championship, where he's broken all sorts of records, is that good enough for him to rid the horrors of that debut season in the Premier League? I hope it is. I, again, trust the Newcastle United scouting staff that they've seen enough evidence to suggest it is. And look, I always think back to Fabrizio Colaccini. He was horrendous in his first season, gets relegated, has a brilliant season, and then he's in the PFA team of the year in the Premier League the campaign after. So, sometimes all it takes is that one season, the level down, just to build your confidence up, get a bit of a feel for it. But I still think there's a little bit of a
You
gamble
have a
when it comes to
feeling that
Trafford.
there's a bit of the Freddie Woodman about James Trafford potentially, that when he eventually gets his chance again in the Premier League, he's not really up to it. Is that your kind of fear?
No, because I think he's streets ahead of Freddie Woodman, or he's streets ahead of wherever Freddie Woodman was when he was at Newcastle United. And it's a really small doubt about him. I mean, but when you look back at how he did, I think it's a fair worry to have. But again, I'm just placing my trust in those who've scouted him, so closely that they think he is Newcastle's number one for many years to come.
Especially for that fee now as well. Kind of 10 million wasn't really be a gamble in this sort of day and age, whereas when you're looking at 30 plus, yeah, I suppose so. It's a gamble, but then you could have said that about Livramento. I mean, on that bare fee alone, you could say, well, potentially overpaid a bit there, but obviously it's been proven right that Tino is now has the potential to be an absolute worldie, and he's getting there.
Well, again, that's why I use the word trust when it comes to Newcastle United's transfer team, because I remember people, and we had guests in this very studio saying they're going to be players of the future, but what Newcastle United need now are players who can hit the ground running and make an instant impact. And they were talking about Livramento and they were talking about Lewis Hall. And a few months later, we're like, okay, whoa, hello, this is what we've got on our hands. So again, I think those making decisions have proved themselves right in taking these so-called gambles. And yes, the price tag is probably the biggest sticking point, I think. But as I've said, when I talk about Mark Gee, I'm looking at the long-term picture here. If you can get someone in like James Trafford, and yes, he might cost you 30, 35, 40 million pounds with add-ons, but he stays with you for the best years of his career. If
Yeah,
James Trafford stays until he's 30, 32, 33, they go on much longer now these days, don't they? And
yeah.
within that, Newcastle have won FA Cup, League Cup, whatever. They've won honours.
Steady.
Well, why not? This is what we've got to think
Well,
about. This
no,
is
no,
the
I agree
ambition.
fully. Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the
No, it's
ambition of
normally
the
me
club.
that's the ambitious one, and you're very yeah, a bit more defensive. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And if he does sign and he's everything that the transfer team want or hope him to be, then you could be looking at a Shea Given number of appearances, or even greater. You could. That's the kind of stability you need with a goalkeeper. So with my alternatives, that's sort of what I've been looking for as well, which is why, as much as I would love to, but I haven't included the likes of Kobel, who I think is probably one of the most underrated footballers in the world. To be honest, I think he's such a good goalkeeper, but he's 27. Does that fit the mold of the goalkeepers we're really looking at now? Probably not. There's rumours that Ter Stegen's available from Barcelona. He's 32. He's a world class goalkeeper, but again, doesn't really fit the mold. Mike Maignan has been mentioned, linked with Chelsea. Obviously, he's 29. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, and probably is available with no Champions League for AC Milan next season. But again, does he fit the mold of what we're after? Probably not. I mean, in an ideal world, and PSR wasn't a thing, I'd be getting Kobel and having him for the next 5, 6, 7 years and being done with it.
You're right. PSR is probably Newcastle's biggest sticking point when it comes to transfers, and it probably would be a very different list all over the pitch if there was a
Kobel
little bit
could have
more
been a
money to spend.
realistic one had Dortmund missed out on Champions League, but again, as we spoke about, Freiburg bottled it and Dortmund just nicked in there, didn't they, on the last day of the season? because he's the complete goalkeeper. He makes everything look so easy, and he doesn't even get regular game time for his country because he's behind Jan Sommer. Switzerland are stacked, aren't they, for goalkeepers? But I think he's so underrated. He's just a goalkeeper of epic proportions, but he's not on the list because of those reasons I've just mentioned.
And we'll get onto your list in a moment, but just sticking with James Trafford, Burnley are reportedly closing in on Max Wies, a German goalkeeper. According to Sky Germany, a medical has been scheduled. He's 21. Now, the report suggested that he's coming in with a long-term plan to be the number one goalkeeper, but he will battle for that spot with James Trafford. From a Newcastle point of view, you go, well, they're signing a 21-year-old here, and he's probably going to be number one next season because they're aware James Trafford is off the Tyneside. That's the hopeful conclusion from that story. I also asked people to get in touch, Sam, regarding their viewpoint on James Trafford and the fee being paid and whether they think, he is the right man to become Newcastle's number one. And we've had quite a few replies on X. So thank you to everyone who got in touch. We've got one chap saying, reminds me of Pickford at Sunderland in the sense that it's pretty obvious he'll get 50 caps for England. His potential season isn't elite and he'll never be the best keeper in the league, but he'll consistently be very good for 10 years. It's a pickup that sorts us for the next 10 to 15 years. If he's as good as Jordan Pickford, and I know this is a Newcastle United podcast and people hate Jordan Pickford because of his Sunderland links, but if we're just talking about a good goalkeeper, a very good goalkeeper, then Jordan Pickford is one of the best out there. So if Trafford can reach the levels of Jordan Pickford, I'll take that.
I wouldn't say he's one of the best out there. And I think with Thomas Tuchel as well, because with Southgate, Pickford's place was never really under threat. Yes, other keepers played here and there in kind of lesser matches. But I think with Tuchel, his comments saying that, England's goalkeeper should be playing in Europe and in the Champions League. If Trafford does sign, and who knows, Pope gets an injury, which is not which wouldn't be uncommon. All of a sudden, James Trafford is playing for us in the Champions League, and if he does well, then who knows? There's a battle there for England's number one, and World Cup year, isn't it? So it could be all to play for.
Yeah, that could be the incentive for Trafford to push for this move. Luke says, I love it. He's young, huge potential, great with the ball at his feet. Could be our number one for years to come and helps us deal with high-pressing teams. We've got another chap saying, well, I think he has potential. It's a lot of money for a player. I don't think it's substantially better than Nick Pope right now. That being said, I felt the same way about Tino and Hall, and they both lived up to the price tag so far. And I guess that is another important question. Is James Trafford right now better than Nick Pope? It's funny because I remember when Nick Pope signed, we were having the same conversations about is Nick Pope substantially better than Martin Dubravka? And he proved himself to be in time, well, pretty much within a few months. But a lot of people said, I'm not too sure about that. Is James Trafford right now better than Nick Pope? Because that's the question.
We don't know. We don't know because again, there are those question marks surrounding his ability in the Premier League. He's not proven, whereas Pope sort of is.
Who
Obviously,
starts is number one against Aston Villa on the opening day of the season if James Trafford and Nick Pope are both at the club on that Saturday morning?
Pope.
Okay. Let us know in the comments your
I
thoughts.
don't think there'll be much change in the lineup against Aston Villa on the opening day of the season than there was probably the last time we were at Villa Park a couple of months ago.
Well, that's because you're not too sure or hopeful about Premier League or about signings until later in the window.
Plus, as well, they take time to bed in. Howe never rushes them, so which is why he wanted early business, which is yet to come to fruition.
We've got Ben saying Kobel would be the 127, but still has years left in him. We've got
he's probably got
saying,
one big move left in him, Kobel. But again, with Dortmund getting the Champions League, his availability probably isn't what it was had they not.
Yeah, we've got Lenny saying the perfect goalkeeper signing for me. He could potentially play for Newcastle in England for the next decade. Makes a lot of sense given the age profile of the likes of Tino, Hall and Botman. And importantly, he can play out with his feet. Young, hungry, determined, and hates the Mackhams. So Lenny is a big fan of James Trafford. We've got Tim saying, I remember watching a piece about how the goalkeeper role has evolved. It's not about receiving and passing out of the back four. It's about seeing the bigger picture in front of you, seeing the right pass at the right time. People say we can't beat a low block. That's exactly what Trafford brings. We've got Lee saying, just depends what impact splashing out on a goalkeeper has on other signings. For me, a right wing, a centre back, backup striker, and midfielder are all more important than a keeper. As for Trafford, yes, he is good, a good profile for us, and I'm sure he would be good. I'm just looking back down. We've got other people saying just get it done. It's dragged on for too long. And Alex says, great keeper, stacks of potential. Potential England number one. Langa and Pedro would be fantastic before pre-season. And I'd love to see us get another central defender and a central defender, midfielder as well. Potentially a young right back if Trippier goes. And Jack says, really excited. Will totally transform the way we play against lesser sides and allow us to dominate the ball better. So a lot of love for James Trafford in the comments.
Yeah, I thought as much as there would be. Obviously, he got a lot of popularity with his dealings with Sunderland last season. So yeah, well, he's earned the love already, hasn't he? So, but yeah, he's. I wouldn't be against the move at all, but obviously it's just the price tag, which yes, we can get bogged down in, and we do get bogged down in transfer fees and whatnot, especially these days with PSR, because like one of the messages said there, it does affect budgets for alternative positions that we desperately need investment into.
So does I mean, how worried are you about that? Because say they have 150 million pounds to spend, and you're splashing at least 30 million on Trafford. That is quite a substantial bit of that pot, isn't it?
Yes, but I've presented plenty of value for you for centre halves and right wingers so far. I mean, I'm very concerned that Diamande is going to go to Crystal Palace. But yeah, if we get Scalvini, that wouldn't be a bad alternative should he stay fit.
That's the big question when it comes to Scalvini, that ACL, and then that would be quite a lot of the back line who have had ACL injuries. But then you'd say, well, look at Tino, look at Botman there, proof you can do it. So let us know in the comments as well whether you think Scalvini would be a great addition for
Well, it
Newcastle United.
is kind of to do myself out my own point. There is Botman proof yet? I don't think he is, because he's not had, since he's come back, he's not had a real solid run in the team because he keeps getting sort of niggling injuries here, there, and everywhere since. So it's it's a big year for Sven Botman coming up.
It is, but I think the positive, if you want to say that, for want of a better phrase, is that it was the other knee that he's been impacted with. So not the ECL knee. I mean, Tyrone Mings is bounced back. Tino is bounced back. So there is hope that Scalvini can overcome the injury, and we wish him well wherever he ends up. On to your list then of alternatives to James Trafford. What are we looking for in this list? Are we looking for value for money? Are we looking for a better goalkeeper? I suppose it has to be a mix of both.
Yeah, and the right age as well. So the oldest goalkeeper I've selected for you in these three is 24. So you have to factor in the age as well, because again, which is why I've not included your Kobels, your Menyons, to Sturgeons, because it wouldn't really represent a kind of forward vision. So yeah, again, that they've got to hold value for just the same as every transfer. Obviously, have that high ceiling, the potential, and ability to sort of come right in and perform straight away, like your Botman, like your Tonali's, Bruno's, Isak's. That's all those kind of in the same mold.
I mean, I've got to say, without giving your list away, looking and researching the three names you've given me, they're all potentially, from what I've read, in the same fee bracket as James Trafford.
One probably isn't. The other two potentially. But yeah, if that's the budget we've got on the goalkeepers, then that's the budget we've got. So it's not like because Kobel would probably cost more. I haven't included the likes of Diogo Costa, from Porto, who's 25, and he'd probably be a lot more expensive. I was tempted to include Verbruggen from Brighton, who's still only 22. It seems like he's been
been
around
around
for
forever, hasn't he?
ages.
Feels like it.
So I think he'd be quite pricey as well, a lot more than my three, and Trafford would be as well. So those are the ones I haven't included for those reasons. But yeah, let's see how we go.
Well, let's start with your wild card then. Introduce him to
Yeah.
us.
Okay, so Anatoli Troubin is a goalkeeper for Benfica. He's 23. They signed him from Shakhtar for about £8 million. Just at the time, it was all kicking off, obviously, in Ukraine. He was actually signed to replace your friend of mine, Vlachodimos, of all people, who had just been replaced by Sam Soares, the Portuguese goalkeeper. But Troubin has kind of displaced Soares. He's already got 20 caps for Ukraine. Big kind of strapping lad, 6'6", big scopy, rangy, as you would want from a goalkeeper, of course. He's doing very, very well, and I think would be the cheapest of the three. As I say, he's 23 years of age, so great age, as the kind of mold and profile Newcastle tend to look for in terms of profile. Yeah, fantastic shot stopper, as all goalkeepers should be. I kind of, when I look at shot stopping and everything else with the goalkeeper, I would say when we had Matt Sells, he was a good shot stopper. But the reason why it didn't work for him at Newcastle is his command of his area, his and everything else that nowadays comes with a goalkeeper wasn't very good, which is why he had to go away and rebuild. He's had a good season for Forest. I don't think he was the best goalkeeper in the Premier League last season by any stretch, but others do. But yeah, Anatoli Troubin, I think would be an interesting sort of wild card option. Obviously, there's always some question marks about Portuguese league form, but Benfica are no strangers to playing in Europe. They're regulars; they're there every season, aren't they? And we know he's better than our fourth choice goalkeeper. So it's an improvement on the goalkeeping squad at the very least.
But do we? I mean, it's funny because we're talking him up and we're saying he's played this amount of games for Benfica and won this and that and played in Champions League and what have you. You look at Vlachodimos, he played more than 200 times for Benfica and yet kicked out of Forest, fourth choice at best in Newcastle United. He cannot be that bad, can he? Really? And is he?
Vlachodimos, who's Greece
Yeah.
#1 for.
Exactly.
Well, he still sort of is. I think it's only very, very recently he's lost his place. I don't know. That situation is very, very baffling, isn't it? The whole Vlachodimos thing, because it's clear that Eddie Howe wants nothing to do with him. And the fact that he's behind the pecking order of John Ruddy now, who may get an extra year, which again I scratch my head about, as Gillespie's got another year as well. This is the thing I don't understand about our goalkeeping situation, especially when he was adamant he wanted to keep Dubravka for another year. I don't get it. How many goalkeepers do you need, really? I get that they have the old Scott Carson role, but even City have got rid of Carson now. So yeah, but yeah, Troubin is one that could probably benefit from a slow introduction and can dovetail with Pope. But if Pope does get that injury again that he's had for a couple of seasons now, then I'd have no real issue in sticking him in the sticks and to be a long-term prospect.
19 clean sheets last season, has a £74 million release clause, but reports suggest
Oh,
that he
don't
could
take
be done.
notice of release clauses.
Well, I was just about to say, reports suggest that he could be bought for £30 million. Both Manchester United and Man City have been linked to him as well. So Newcastle.
Oh, have they? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Reports say that had Man United won the Europa League, then they would have pushed ahead to sign him, I think, more on the basis of persuading him to come and join them rather than leave a Champions League kind of side in Benfica. But yeah, both of them have been linked. And to be fair, the other two names reports I've read have both linked them as well to the other two names you've got on this list. But yeah, an interesting one there in Troubin, and I guess the main question over him would be just how high do we hold the Portuguese top flight, really, because you don't really get too many world-class players transferring over. I mean, there are some, Deco for one, moving to Chelsea and what have you, but
Well, he
it
went to
can be a bit of a
Barcelona first, and also, I mean, the prime example to use really was Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little while, didn't he, at Manchester United? Did he hit the ground running straight
Well,
away?
he was a child.
He was. Did Deco go up? I thought Deco went to Barcelona after Chelsea. But anyway, we digress.
He won the Champions League with Porto. No, this is important. He won the Champions League with Porto. I'm sure he went to Barca. And
He
then
did. Chelsea. He went to Barca first, then he came to Chelsea. Yeah, I think Newcastle were linked to him at the time he moved to Barcelona. Actually, in those years when Freddie Shepherd and what have you tried to buy, or at least dropped hints he was buying everyone like Wayne Rooney and Ronaldinho and co. But anyway, moving on to your second pick.
So there's not much separating the second pick and the first pick, to be honest. But just about who gets the nod for second place. We're going back to Atalanta. Where obviously Scalvini was highlighted for centre back, but their goalkeeper Marco Carsonetti, 24 years old. I'm a big fan. I think he's a cracking goalkeeper. I really do. Again, another one that's good with his feet and kind of has all the makings of a kind of real complete goalkeeper. 6'5". He's tied down till 2028, which could be a stumbling block. But obviously, he's now a regular in the senior setup. But obviously, Donnarumma is number one because he's really refound his form. Donnarumma that he was really cracked up to be when at AC Milan, but struggled initially at PSG. I thought when we played them, I thought he was terrible. But last season, Donnarumma really came back to his best. So Cartonecci's behind him in the pecking order, which is sort of fair enough. That's not a sort of a slant on Cartonecci, but I really think he's a cracking goalkeeper. Atalanta, obviously, a really good time of things of late. And yeah, there's some real gems in that squad to be cherry picked. Scalvini is one of them, and Cartonecci, I think, is primed for a big move.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fans, hasn't he? And in a really talented team who have kind of, I guess, established themselves as a top Serie A side as well, which is always nice to see. I mean, and if he could come along, Scalvini to Tyneside this summer, very few people would turn their noses up at that. 44 appearances, 18 clean sheets last season. Again, Manchester United have been linked, and the price tag in the reports that I've read, £50 million.
It's probably a bit steep. I wouldn't have thought he would go for that much. But look, if you are going for someone who could be your number one straight away for the next 10 years, he's your guy.
I mean, so we're talking about James Trafford coming in and not starting against Aston Villa. Are we talking about this chap coming in and he would be starting against Aston Villa?
Yeah, he's your number one.
Oh, interesting. So we're talking about proper different levels then between him and Trafford.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I would say so. Trafford has that potential, obviously, because Cartonecci is probably a little bit ahead of him, experience-wise, and what he's achieved so far. Again, no, I wouldn't say it was a slant on James Trafford, but yeah, Cartonecci is probably a level above as things stand at the moment.
Interesting. I mean, I suppose that's what you pay £50 million for, though, right?
I don't think it'd be that much.
Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Sam's first two picks, his wild card and then his second pick. Who is top of your list?
If Cartonecci signs, he gets the number one shirt, and he there you go. He starts. He's your number one.
Your number one pick?
It's a name that we've actually been linked with, which had got me excited because I've mentioned him on and off for the past 12 months, and it's another goalkeeper who's primed for a big move now. It's Lille's Lucas Chevalier, French 23-year-old goalkeeper who hasn't yet made his debut for the full French team. He was involved in the Olympic squad in the previous Olympics where Thierry Henry was in charge. But that's because again he's behind Mike Maignan, who's one of the elite goalkeepers in world football at the moment. So again, that's not something to put you off. He's only 6'2", so he's not the kind of towering figure. I mean, for a goalkeeper, at least 6'2" is pretty tall. But yeah, he's got 2 years left on his deal. And he's everything's sort of there for him to kind of have this move and take his career to the next level now, because he's got all the attributes to be an elite goalkeeper, an elite goalkeeper. So that's why he's just got the verdict ahead of Carnesecchi for me, because I think Chevalier probably has the highest ceiling of the two. He's a year younger than the Italian. But he's done very well for Lille. Lots of Champions League experience. Won the league with them back in 2021. And again, his contract situation is kind of there to not necessarily be exploited, but it's the kind of right length to kind of go in for a transfer, which was what sort of got me excited when I saw us linked with him.
So, what would you say his main attribute is? What impresses you the most?
It's complete package. The complete package, same as Carnesecchi. He's everything you'd want from the kind of modern day goalkeeper. He could be the one that's really top level in the future. So can he achieve that at Lille? I'm not so sure. He's primed to take his career up to the next level now. I think he needs a move. The time is right for him. Could he go on to displace Mike Maignan? Wouldn't be a surprise. Time is on his side to do that. Magnan's 29, so probably you could say he's approaching his prime years. But Chevalier is one of those that it wouldn't be a surprise if he does go on to eclipse Maignan in the next coming years.
And Lille not getting Champions League football for next season, I suppose, might make that move a little bit easier to do. They qualify for the Europa League.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everything is kind of there for Chevalier to get a big move this summer. I haven't seen him linked with anyone else. You're probably going to tell me otherwise now, because I don't tend to look at rumours. I've got to be honest. I look at just the players themselves. Especially with your dodgy sources that you bring to the table the past few weeks. Who's he been linked with then? Tell me.
Aston Villa, because Martinez is set to be on his way. So Aston Villa have been linked with a £40 million bid.
That would make me physically sick.
Well, there you go. I mean, they are going to be in the market for a new goalkeeper, because it does look like Martinez is going to be on the road.
Where's he going?
He's been linked to various clubs. I think he's been linked to Saudi and other clubs in Europe. But I saw one wild link to Manchester United as well, because they look like they are going to get rid of Onana. Edison at City looks set to go to the Middle East as well, if you read or believe various reports out there. So it seems like the summer could be quite a busy market for goalkeepers, and there's going to be
well, Villa need to sell as well, don't they?
We do in the next week, we believe. So won't know,
because they missed out on Champions League. My wife is sat next to me. You didn't get Champions League, so yeah, she's not happy.
Did she swear there?
Yeah, no, she didn't. She didn't swear verbally, but there was swearing in the eyes.
Okay. 48 appearances, 13 clean sheets. But yes, a man who has many admirers and one to watch there. I mean, I haven't got any alternative, Sam, to be honest, because goalkeepers for me, it's a bit of a boring position. So I know that
well,
with
you can tell from your performance in the press match at St James's Park, you certainly look bored in your efforts at being a goalkeeper there.
Well, I was hoping
to take your place next season.
I was hoping that upon such a good performance, maybe they come knocking and sign me up. I mean, one thing I do want them to do is to stay far away from Aaron Ramsdale.
Yes,
Just
agreed.
don't go anywhere near Aaron Ramsdale.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I've never seen the appeal. I have to be honest. I was shocked he got the move to Arsenal. To be honest, yeah, never seen the appeal. We were tentatively linked to the chap from Espanyol as well, weren't we? Joan Garcia, who I think's on his way to Barcelona. Whether that was a genuine link or one of the links online. Again, I don't pay much attention, but this one did cross my path. He's decent. I wouldn't put him in the same category as the three I've highlighted, but he does have a release clause as they all do in the league. But I think that's about 25 million euros as well. So maybe one to consider. It doesn't excite me greatly, but Chevalier would, Carsonetti would. Troubin as a kind of alternative would excite me for the future and to kind of dovetail with Pope for this season at least. But I don't think there's much wrong with Trafford. Again, it's just the fee. I'd be very interested to see how Trafford would develop. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, if you ask me, kind of Chevalier or Trafford, I would be learning French.
But I think the more likely one is going to be James Trafford. I mean, what about Keller, who obviously has moved to Brentford for a reported initial £12.5 million, rising to around about 18, joins from Liverpool. Would you like to have seen that deal done?
No.
Not a big fan?
No, I'm not. I've never seen the hype. I think Brentford's his level. It's a good move for him.
Oh, interesting one, because a few people
from the Premier League, I thought Verbruggen from Brighton was probably the best shout, who could potentially be available and has potential. As I was staggered that he's still only 22. But again, fee was the one that put me off. I don't think. I mean, Brighton are fantastic the way they go about their business, buying low, selling high. Yeah, I know Tony Bloom's a bit of a gambler, but yeah, his gambles pay off in the transfer market for Brighton. But yeah, from the Premier League, he was probably would have been the way I went. But yeah, I think there's better and cheaper alternatives out in Europe, as I do for most positions, to be honest.
Yeah, you certainly do. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Sam's alternative list to James Trafford. Thanks to Sam for popping on to the podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Do hit thumbs up, do hit subscribe, leave us a rating and review. Click the link in the podcast description box to get a discounted offer on your Saily eSIM. And from myself and Sam, we will see you guys next week.